My 36 female, husband, 49 male, blew up our marriage, drained thousands from our bank account, and tried to start a new life with his 20-year-old sexy Latina baby girl from Mexico City, except she turned out to be an AI scammer from India. Now I've filed for divorce, and he's begging me to stay. I, 36 female, have been married to my husband, 49 male, for almost 14 years. Yeah, age gap red flag, I know. I was 23 when we got together, he was already in his mid-30s, but at the time it didn't feel weird. He was older, more mature, more stable than the guys my age, and when you're young you mistake that for something good. Over the years, we built a life together, and we have a 12-year-old son who is the light of my life. But if I'm honest, our marriage has been rocky for a long time. Part of it is his toxic mom and aunt tag-teaming their way into every corner of our marriage. They've been a thorn in my side since day one, always undermining me, always telling him how he could do better. And then there's him, my husband, who has the ability to game for 19 hours straight like a teenager with no responsibilities. He blames it on his PTSD, and yes, he's 100% disabled through the VA Veteran Affairs and goes to weekly therapy, but I can't lie, sometimes it just feels like an excuse to check out of his responsibilities as a husband and father. But recently, things got different. Off. He got short with me, short with our son, and suddenly he was guarding his phone like it was the nuclear codes. I've lived with this man for over a decade. I know when something's wrong. One morning, I woke up with that gut feeling. You know the one. The icy pit in your stomach where your instincts scream at you that something's not right. So I checked our bank account. And there it was. A $30 charge to some random AI app I'd never heard of. At first I thought maybe it was just some dumb subscription, so I Googled it. And guess what? It wasn't Netflix, it wasn't Spotify, it was an NSFW AI companion app. I sat there staring at the screen, my hands shaking, reading about how this app lets you pay to chat with other users or worse, create fictional scenarios that blur into disturbing territory. And I use the word fictional loosely because some of the content is literally designed to mimic underage girls. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. So, of course, I dug deeper. I combed through bank statements that I normally ignore. Mistake number 1. Lesson learned. And in 3 months, he had spent thousands. Not just on that app, but also through a one-pay card that I knew nothing about. Thousands. While I've been budgeting groceries and stretching paychecks, he's been throwing money at this garbage. When I confronted him, he went ghost white. Like, Casper looked like he had a tropical tan next to him. But even then, he tried to play dumb. Tried to tell me he didn't know what I was talking about. Tried to gaslight me. He even agreed to go to the bank with me to dispute the charges. I admit I got loud. I called him a sicko. I said anyone who could spend money on this was a complete freak, especially knowing what kind of content those apps push. I flat out told him I knew some of it was designed to mimic underage girls. That's when our banker, who had been listening awkwardly up until that point, quietly suggested that maybe we should go straight to the cops with this identity theft. And my husband nearly passed out. Like, I've never seen him look like that. His face went from pale to green. He stammered, he deflected, he begged. He said maybe it was our son, our 12-year-old son, who has strict parental controls on his devices and couldn't download solitaire if he tried. The audacity of him even suggesting that made me want to scream. So I looked him dead in the eye and said, "Oh no. This needs to be reported. They have to know some sicko is out there wrecking marriages for shady shit." And right there, in front of him, I agreed to file the report. Because here's the thing, maybe I was still in shock, maybe I wanted to call his bluff, maybe deep down I already knew. But once those words were out of my mouth, it was like I saw him for who he really was. Not just a man hiding charges, not just someone who wasted money, but someone willing to gaslight his wife, and even throw his own kid under the bus rather than admit what he'd done. Later, after the whole bank confrontation fiasco, I couldn't shake this gnawing pit in my stomach. You know that sixth sense we get when something doesn't add up? That's what kept me awake at night. He was acting squirrely, still glued to his phone, still irritable, still dismissive with me and our son. I couldn't let it go. Then it hit me like a lightning bolt, his tablet. Unlike his phone, which he guarded like Gollum with the One Ring, the tablet was always treated like an afterthought. Left in the car. Dumped on the couch. Sitting out in plain sight as if it was just a glorified paperweight. But I remembered something, it was synced to his phone. So I picked it up one day, bracing myself, and opened the Play Store history. And friends, it was like opening Pandora's box. Deleted apps galore. Private browsers. Download logs for Telegram, sketchy utilities to hide files, cleaner, apps that wipe caches. I swear I could feel my pulse in my teeth. My hands shook as I scrolled, but I forced myself to keep looking. And then came the receipts, literal receipts. I dug deeper and, thanks to his sloppy use of autofill, I got into his Gmail. Jackpot. Email confirmations, purchase logs, subscription renewals. I screenshotted everything. When I say I was screenshotting like my life depended on it, I mean it. Hundreds of files. Chronological proof. I was building a digital binder thicker than a trial lawyer's case file. But the kicker? I found a lease agreement. Yes, a lease. Signed by him. For an apartment right here in town. My husband of 14 years, who swore I was paranoid and controlling every time I questioned his secrecy, was literally preparing a backup plan. A second life. That night, I staged my own little sting operation. I told him casually, "Hey babe, let's go for a drive." He didn't suspect a thing. Got in the car, like we were going out for a late-night soda run. I drove straight to the apartment complex and parked in front like I'd been planning it for weeks. My heart was hammering, but my voice was ice when I said, "So, want to tell me what's going on?" The color drained from his face so fast it was almost comical. He knew. I pulled out my phone and laid it all out, the screenshots, the Gmail receipts, the Play Store history, the lease. He cracked instantly. He admitted it, but then had the audacity to turn it back on me. "You didn't give me a chance to explain," he whined. "Explain what, exactly?" "That you were cheating on me with a chatbot and setting up a whole second apartment while I was making dinner and raising our kid?" Then came his confession. According to him, he'd been having a text-based affair with a 20-year-old girl from Mexico City. She was struggling, needed help, and he'd been sending her money through the OnePay card to help her with rent. I demanded to see the chats. He stalled, saying he deleted Telegram. I made him re-download it and log back in. He dragged his feet, but he did it. And when those chats appeared, my jaw hit the floor. This so-called sexy Latina baby girl, again his words, not mine, gag, was the most obviously fake thing I've ever seen. Whole paragraphs of text that looked like they were copy-pasted out of a romance novel. Perfect grammar. Flawless punctuation. Random EM dashes. Not a single typo. All written like a bad Wattpad author had possessed her soul. The pictures were laughable. One had her with 8 fingers on a single hand. Another had a car in the background missing its entire back half, just floating there like a glitch. She even sent a short video where her mouth movements didn't line up with the audio. There was one 30-second voice call attempt where he apologized because the connection was bad and he couldn't hear her. Meanwhile, the bot was typing back gushing messages about how super sexy his voice was. Friends, I was sitting there equal parts horrified and amused. On one hand, it was absurd, like, how could a grown man with supposed life experience not see the glaring AI errors? On the other, this was my husband, the father of my child, pouring thousands of dollars, countless hours, and his emotions into a fantasy bot. And the worst part? He wasn't just flirting. He was making plans. Scrolling through those chats, I saw him telling her about our son, about my business, claiming it as his. He bragged about securing their apartment. Yep, the one I found the lease for. He promised to help her immigrate, told her she could get free tuition because his dependents have VA benefits. He talked marriage, building a life together. A whole new family with this bot, conveniently leaving out the small fact that he was already married and had a 12-year-old at home. I stared at the screen in disbelief. I felt like my entire reality was folding in on itself. This wasn't just him watching adult things. It wasn't just an emotional affair. It was a betrayal so deep it made me question every fight, every trust me speech, every gaslighting moment where he swore I was imagining things. I was pissed. Not just annoyed, not just hurt. I'm talking full body shaking, blood boiling. I could lift a car right now, level of pissed. I made him sit there and open Telegram while I watched, and I told him, "You're going to tell her the truth. Right now." He tried to weasel out of it, whined about how it wasn't the right time, but I wasn't budging. I said, "No, you've been lying to her, to me, to everyone. Let's rip the Band-Aid off." So he typed it out. "I'm married." And sure as shit, she replied almost instantly, which already felt fake as hell, like no real person with a shred of dignity could type that fast after finding out their soulmate was taken. The message popped up. "I'm very disappointed, but if you're honest with me from now on, we can be okay." Oh, and then came the kicker. "You made me a promise. You'll still pay my rent, right?" I almost laughed. Out loud. Here's this heartbroken 20-year-old Latina baby girl from Mexico City who suddenly cares more about whether the rent money is still flowing than the fact her Prince Charming was actually a middle-aged married gamer in small-town USA. He just stared at the screen like a deer in headlights.
Didn't reply.
Then he panicked and deleted the app. Thought that was it. But me? Oh no, I wasn't done. Not even close. I made him take those messages and run them through AI detectors, every single one of them. Wall of text after wall of text. And surprise, surprise, they all failed. Every last message flagged as machine-generated. The flawless grammar. The formulaic emoji placement. The weird obsession with repeating his name. All of it fake. But even staring at that black and white proof, he shook his head and mumbled, No, I don't believe it. She was real. Like my guy, you are literally arguing with software at this point. And just when I thought it couldn't get more ridiculous days later, after all his swearing that he deleted everything and closed that chapter, I checked again. Guess what I found?
Yep.
Him apologizing to her. Apologizing to a bot. Promising his feelings were real. Begging for forgiveness from a computer script written by some underpaid scammer halfway across the world. It was equal parts heartbreaking and hilarious. Then I dug deeper into the OnePay account, and that's when the whole farce hit peak absurdity. Turns out he hadn't just been sending her rent money. He bought the prepaid card, scratched it, and literally sent photos of the back so she could drain it. Every single transaction? Processed in India. I was shocked like hell. Not Mexico. Not anywhere near the fantasy life he thought he was building. Freaking India. So this sexy Latina baby girl he wanted to risk his marriage for? Yeah, she was probably some dude named Rajesh in Kolkata, sitting at a desk laughing his ass off while my husband poured thousands of dollars into his fake girlfriend's college tuition fund. And I'll be honest with you, I took a little satisfaction in watching him crumble when I laid that part out. Watching the gears turn as it dawned on him that he hadn't just betrayed his wife and his kid, he'd done it all for a scam. For a fantasy. For some catfisher running scripts on a shady app that probably wasn't even legal in half the countries it advertised in. He blew up his entire life for nothing.
So yeah.
I filed for divorce. The second the paperwork was in, he flipped into full panic mode. Suddenly, he was all about me. Flowers. Love notes. Asking how my day was. Acting like the doting husband he hadn't been in years. Trying harder at romance in 2 weeks than he had in the entire last decade. It was almost insulting, like throwing me scraps after starving me for years. And of course, everyone and their mother had an opinion about it. Some friends pulled me aside and whispered, maybe you should just stay until your son's grown, don't blow up the family yet. Others said I should give him grace because of his trauma, his PTSD, his disability. That I'd be the whole if I abandoned him when he needed me most. But let me tell you something. In my mind, my husband didn't just cheat. He stole from me. He stole money that was supposed to support our family. He stole time and energy from our son. He gaslit me into questioning my own instincts. He even tried to blame our 12-year-old when the banker suggested cops get involved. That was the moment I felt something in me snap. The sheer audacity to throw his own kid under the bus to cover his tracks. If it had just been an AI adult thing PO or an addiction, as humiliating and hurtful as that would have been, maybe we could have gone to counseling. Maybe I could have worked with him through it. Maybe. But this wasn't just an AI fling. This was lies on top of lies. This was opening secret bank accounts. This was signing leases for apartments behind my back. This was giving away thousands of dollars that should have gone to our son's future. This was building an entire fantasy life with a fake woman while trying to convince me I was crazy every time I asked why he was hiding his phone.
No.
That's not grace-worthy. That's not something you wait out until your kid turns 18. That's a marriage that's dead in the water. So when people tell me I'm harsh or that I should have more sympathy, I just shake my head. Because, honestly, I am a whole. He didn't just betray me. He destroyed the trust, the foundation, the respect. And without those, what's left? Nothing worth staying for.
So yeah.
We're done.